Hello, welcome to the audiobook of my Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's fanfic, Crimson Star Priestess. If you are enjoying this series, make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe to my channel for updates. The link to the fanfic and my Discord server are in the description below. I do not own any Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's characters, I only own my original characters. It was a nice and slight chilly day in the middle of October. The air was fresh and filled my lungs with the scent of seawater as I drove to Satellite. Since it was cold, I wore a dark brown leather jacket to keep me warm. A fresh bouquet of flowers was tied on the back of my door runner to make sure it wouldn't fly off. Some people would think I was on my way to meet someone special, and that was kinda true. I was on my way to visit an old friend of mine who gave me an important purpose to live after the enforcers split up. I parked my door runner before I took the helmet off and got off my bike. I put down the helmet and untied the bouquet before stepping into Satellite's cemetery. Last time I visited, the cemetery didn't look as proper as now. It used to be full of weed and trash, but now that the island and the city were connected, the authorities made sure to keep this place clean now for those who were resting with their tombstones. I quickly found the tombstone I was searching for and placed down the bouquet. I straightened up and stood there for a minute in silence. Robert Pearson, the adult who helped me become the young man I am today. It's been a while, Pearson. I began speaking to the tombstone. Sorry I couldn't visit you sooner. It's been very hectic since the Daedalus Bridge got connected to Satellite. A very light chuckle passed through my lips before my smile dropped. I wish you were there to witness it. But what happened on that day 3 years ago? I was running as fast as I could through the streets of the old Satellite. A huge pillar of smoke had caught my attention from where I was living in bed, but I knew right away where the smoke came from. My fear grew bigger as I approached Pearson's workshop. It was on fire and it was swallowing the whole building. "Pearson!" I yelled as I rushed into the burning house. I threw my arms up to shield my face from the fire as I looked around, trying to see if someone was inside and needed help. I found a lantern on the ground that was broken. Oil had spilled out from it, so that must have been the culprit of the big fire. I snapped my head up when I heard a weak groan among the crackling fire. My eyes widened when I saw it was Pearson. His lower body was trapped underneath a beam that had fallen straight on him. He had his dual disc on his arm, so he must have been dueling before the fire broke out. "Pearson, hang on, I'll save ya!" I called. However, burning debris fell from the ceiling before I could get to him. I could also hear how the roof was slowly bending in, ready to collapse in any second. "Crow, is it you?" Pearson's weak voice called. "Pearson, what happened?" I asked as the fire grew intense around me. It has nothing to do with you," Pearson grunted in pain. "It is my personal problem." He moved his arms among the debris that had trapped him before he removed his dual disc. "But more importantly, take my blackbird." He threw the dual disc to me, which I caught, but I stared at the adult in shock. The blackbird was his personal dual runner he had built from scratch to represent the deck he had been using for a long time. "Take care of the kids for me," Pearson told me with a weak but serious voice before he lost consciousness. "Pearson!" I yelled desperately. The burning wood was now raining over me, so my instincts took over. I rushed to the Blackbird and connected the dual disc to it, starting it up. Just before the roof collapsed, I twisted the throttle and flew out of the workshop before it got gobbled by the flames. Since I have never driven a door runner before, I didn't land gracefully with it. I ended up getting thrown off of it and rolled down the hill before I came to a halt next to the runner. My body was sore and I had burn marks, but I was alive. I looked over my shoulder and watched the fire that danced like the devil himself before devouring the workshop. Tears accumulated in my eyes before frustration and sadness took over my senses, and I screamed to the dark night sky at the top of my lungs. The children that used to visit and work in Pearson's workshop were devastated after I told them what happened. Bolger, Pearson's friend, who used to run the workshop with him, was sad by the loss of his old friend. After the incident, I made sure to keep Pearson's promise, and I took in the orphans and treated them as if they were my brothers and sisters. A few of them left to live independently after they got older, but some of them stayed since I could provide them with food and good stuff. 3 years later, I only had Ginga, Taiga, Daichi, Kokoro, and Hikari left, but they were now living in Marta's house, so they were in a safe environment where they could smile and laugh and be children instead of fighting for survival like Jack, Yusei, and I did when we left our foster mother's home after we became teenagers. Bolger and I lost contact, but I heard rumors he went to New Domino City and made a huge career. I was glad for his sake, but I couldn't help but feel like he had moved on and forgot about Pearson. I've got a lot to thank you for, Pearson. I spoke up again after I had gone through my memories. I've been taking good care of both your Blackbird and Blackwing deck. If it weren't for them, I've never been able to help Yusei and my friends from stopping an evil power that wanted to destroy our world. I promise I'll keep looking after the kids and do my best in life at the same time. Yusei, Jack, and I are thinking about participating in the World Racing Grand Prix next year. I hope you'll cheer for us. I stayed by the tombstone for a while before it was time for me to leave. I walked back to my door runner and climbed onto it. I put my helmet on and started the engine. However, I got a warning on the display of the dashboard as the engine shut down. Again? I mumbled. The Blackbird's been acting weird lately. I hope Yusei knows what he's doing. I tried starting the engine again, and this time it purred nicely. There we go. I smiled before throwing one last look at the cemetery. I'll see you later, Pearson. A couple of days went by after my visit at the cemetery. I was on my way back to the garage after buying groceries. We were running low on supplies, and it was my turn to cook dinner. Yusei and I were the only ones who could cook a decent meal. Last time we allowed Jack to be in the kitchen, he almost burned the house down while trying to cook some bacon. We got a huge earful from Zora after that incident, and the scent of smoked bacon was still lingering in the air. Seriously, how hard is it to cook bacon? I opened the twin door to the garage and looked down to see Yusei, who was working on my door runner again. Hey, Yusei! I dropped the bags with groceries and rushed down to protect my baby. What are you trying to do to my door runner again? Oh, Crow, I wanted to adjust the program, but I received an error instead, Yusei explained. What error? I asked as I looked at the laptop that was hooked to my door runner. The blueprint of my runner was on display, and Yusei pointed at the part somewhere in the middle, around where the seat and dashboard were connected. It's around here, but no matter what I do, I can't access it any further, he explained. I sighed in relief Glad to hear he wasn't doing anything weird to the black bird. Just be careful and try not to break it, okay? If I don't have the black bird, I can't do my job, I told him. Don't worry, Crow. I'll be very careful, Yusei assured me. I walked back to the twin door to shut them close and picked up the grocery bags. How long do you think it'll take to figure out that error? I asked. It could take a few hours or even a few days, Yusei replied. My jaw dropped in shock. A few days? I can't deliver stuff to the other side of the city or to satellite on my feet. I'm not Sonic the Hedgehog on speed dial. Hi guys, Estelle's voice called out. The gate of the garage was open, so Estelle, Mina and Trudge stepped inside, all three of them looking concerned. Oh, hiya fellas, I nodded as I headed towards the stairs to drop the bags in the kitchen. Got a minute, Crow? Trudge asked while throwing a thumb over his shoulder. I stopped in my tracks and turned to the trio with a confused expression. Yeah, sure. Just let me put these away and I'll see you outside, I told them. I quickly put away the groceries before I joined the adults. Estelle was still inside the garage because she had some questions about turbo dueling, and Yusei was happy to answer them and teach her stuff she needed for her exams. Mina sat on a bench while Trudge leaned against the railing. So what do you want? I asked the duo. The truth is, it's about Robert Pearson, Trudge confessed. My eyes widened in surprise. Pearson? How do you know about him? I asked. You think that I don't know him? Satellite used to be my jurisdiction, Trudge replied. But why are you asking about him now? I questioned. We want to ask you something about Pearson's death, Mina spoke up. And what is that? I wondered. We found out that Pearson was dueling someone before the fire broke out, Mina explained, and we were also able to find out which card his opponent used against him. I clearly remembered that Pearson had the dual disc on his arm, so that speculation was finally confirmed. Mina stood up and walked over to me while pulling out a photo from her jacket. This is the card. She gave me the photo so I could take a closer look. The photo was of a synchro monster I had never heard about. It looked like a wizard, but it had a slight disfigured face and dressed in a long black coat without legs, a red and black cape tied with a big red ribbon on the front, and a tall black hat. It was holding a wand in its left hand, looking ready to cast a curse. Blood Mephist. Just by a single glance at it made me feel a bit nauseous, as if the monster was mocking me. We're looking for the person who used it. Do you know who it could be? Trudge asked. Sorry, but I've never seen this card before, I shook my head. I see. Trudge scratched the back of his head in defeat. A long time ago, they were developing new cards whose effects were more than just visuals, Mina explained. They made dangerous cards that actually dealt damage to the player. Dealt actual damage? I mumbled in disbelief. It didn't matter if the duelists who used those cards were psychics or not, Mina shook her head. Anyone could use them to harm others. Thankfully, they immediately stopped the development, but several prototype cards were released into the world, and Blood Mephist is one of them. Anger was boiling inside me after I heard all of this. So that means Pearson got hurt by this card's effective damage? I growled to myself, upset by the fact that somebody intentionally hurt my mentor. What if the duelist who played Blood Mephist used the monster to hurt Pearson, and the power was so strong it pushed him back and somehow broke the lantern that caused the fire? But who would want to hurt Pearson? He did have several enemies after beating them in duels, but they never tried to approach him again. Luckily, only a few cards were leaked, Trött spoke up. If we can find the owner of Blood Mephist, we'll know who killed Pearson. We thought that you might know something. I stared at the photo for a few seconds, trying to move the rusty gears in my head. I don't know about this card. My eyes widened in realization. But I think I know someone who can help out with the investigation. Can I keep this photo? Of course, Crow, Mina nodded. Let us know if you find more clues about Pearson's killer. Sector Security's been busy with old cases in Satellite since the construction of the Daedalus Bridge, so we've reopened cases to give the victims justice and closure to the families, Trött explained. That's great to hear, I nodded, feeling relieved and happy to hear about the changes of the city. Later that day, I took Jack's Dew Runner to visit Bolger, since Yusei was still working on my runner. Bolger had now his own company that was called Bolger and Company, so he got very successful. They were even saying the company was going to be one of the sponsors for the World Racing Grand Prix. At first, I was close to be thrown out of the building by the guards, but Bolger appeared just in time to save my skin. We talked in his luxury condo that was the top floor of the company building. When I told him about the new reports of Pearson's death and showed him the picture of Blood Mephist, his body grew rigid. After that, he tried to change the topic by asking me if I wanted to test drive a new course for dual runners. I got very upset when Bolger tried to make me forget about Pearson and not bother about chasing after his killer. After some convincing and me almost leaving the place, Bolger agreed to tell me the truth, but there were a few conditions. First, I had to defeat him in a turbo duel. Second, if I lost, I had to give him Pearson's trump card, Black Winged Dragon. I didn't have Black Winged Dragon in my deck, so I assumed it got burned along with Pearson, but Bolger insisted that I was hiding it somewhere and he needed it to save his company. He confessed the business was running low on money and he needed the Synchromonster card to sell it to an investor, or else he would have to fire every employee and the company would go down. When I left the company, I was very conflicted of what Bolger told me. He said Pearson had the desire to complete his satellite Dew Runner, and so Bolger had been trying to fulfill that dream with Bolger and Company. I had always thought Pearson had cared more about the children he took in as apprentices to teach them about mechanism and how to build Dew Runners. In my memories, he was very gentle and patient with them. He worked to allow children to realize their full potential. He also gave me the hope to live again. I enjoyed helping Pearson's research to build a Dew Runner made of parts from satellite that would shock people in the city. I didn't know if I should accept the Turbo Duel challenge or not, so I asked Bolger to let me think about it for a few days before giving him an answer. It was early evening while I was in my bedroom, dressed in my Eastern outfit, minus the coat, and working on the birthday plans for Goodwin's party. There was a lot to think about: grand hotel, decorations, food, drinks, invitations, and more. My head felt a bit heavy because my mind was traveling from one place to another. I was worried about Crow and the Pearson case that came up a few days ago, but I was also questioning it at the same time. This part was supposed to happen several months later, not now. Was there a reason why this was happening much sooner? I felt the thread of concentration finally snap, so I gave up. I placed the pencil down on the desk and leaned back against the chair to give my mind a rest. I needed to do something to relax and not focus on anything. A knock on the door brought me out of my thoughts. "Come in," I called. I turned around as Hilda stepped into my room. "Miss Estelle, Mr. Yusei is here to see you," she informed me. "He's waiting for you in the living room." Yusei? What was he doing here? I checked my smartphone to see if I had missed a message from him, but there was nothing. "Thank you, Hilda," I nodded as I got up from the chair. I walked to the living room and found the signer on the couch. He snapped his head up when he saw me walk toward him. "Estelle," he nodded. "Hi, Yusei. I didn't expect such a late visit," I said with a tiny smile before I sat down next to him. "Yeah, sorry about that," Yusei said with a small chuckle. "It's okay," I shook my head. "So what's the matter?" "It's about Crow," Yusei told me. I knew straight away where this was heading, but I didn't say a word. "Is something wrong with him?" I asked. "No, it's not that. He visited Pearson's old friend Bolger to ask him about his killer and Blood Mephist. It seems Bolger knows something, so Crow agreed to duel him this weekend to get the answers. However, if Crow loses, he must give Bolger the card of Black-Winged Dragon to save the company." "That sounds complicated," I replied. Yusei looked at me with eyes that clearly said he knew I was hiding something. "There's more to the story, is it?" I sighed in defeat before nodding. "Yes, but I can't tell you," I said. Yusei didn't push on that matter, but he noticed my tired expression. "You okay? You look very tired." "I've been busy with work lately," I replied as I rubbed my right eye underneath my glasses. "I'm making progress, but I'm not done yet." "Just don't overwork yourself," Yusei said before he placed a hand on my right shoulder and gave it a soft squeeze. "I noticed you looked tired last time you came over to the garage to talk about turbo duels. If you need a break, just say so. I won't get mad." "Thank you, Yusei," I smiled softly while feeling my cheeks getting a bit warm. I was about to stand up from the couch when I suddenly felt a harsh pain in my right arm. It was so strong I had to grit my teeth to not yap in pain as I clutched my arm while it turned numb. "Estelle, what's wrong?" Yusei asked worriedly. I don't know," I grunted as I held my right arm. I suddenly felt quite a powerful pain in my arm. Next thing I knew, the pain vanished just as fast as it had appeared. I felt so confused while I removed my hand from the arm. "Now it's gone," I said as I moved my arm around to make sure the pain was really gone. "Has this happened before?" Yusei asked. "Never," I shook my head as I looked at my star mark. "But the pain came from my mark." I didn't know why, but I got a very bad feeling. My mark didn't glow when the pain came and went. A voice in my mind told me something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I got the biggest shock in my life when I turbo-dueled Bolger and found out he had Blood Mephist and he was the one responsible for Pearson's death. He told me he stole the research from Pearson after he rejected some big shot guys from the city who wanted to help with an investment for the satellite duel runner. One thing led to another and Bolger used Blood Mephist to prevent Pearson from stopping him, except it ended up horribly bad. I almost lost hope when I thought I couldn't defeat Blood Mephist when the kids I used to look after showed up with Estelle, Aki, Leo and Luna. They all cheered for me and told me not to give up. It was then I remembered the promise I made with Pearson just before he passed away. It was to look after the children. His passion was to take care of children, give them a purpose in life, and help them realize their potential. My passion to protect the children and carry Pearson's true will caused my door-runner to open a hidden compartment where Pearson had kept Black-Winged Dragon the whole time. My Mark of the Dragon responded to Black-Winged Dragon when I synchro-summoned it, so I quickly connected the dots. Black-Winged Dragon is one of the Steiner dragons, and he's my partner. I managed to defeat Bolger while telling him why Pearson refused the offer from the city. He had prioritized the children before anything else and wanted them to learn to achieve things without any help while completing the satellite door-runner at the same time. The truth got to Bolger and he felt ashamed of his mistake and greed for money. I was relieved he finally understood Pearson's reasons for rejecting the offer. Bolger turned himself in to Sector Security a few hours after the Turbo Duel. While it was true his company was close to bankruptcy, Goodwin offered to help out as an investor while Bolger served time. The next day, Bolger's assistant Rick called me and said his boss had left an order to help me, Yusei and Jack to provide us with financial backing and technical support for the World Racing Grand Prix in the near future, meaning we got a sponsor. This had been an emotional ride for me as I once again promised in front of Pearson's tombstone to keep carrying on his will and take care of the children with Black-Winged Dragon as their guardian.